Johnny Carson exposed the Golden Age Hollywood stars who advanced their careers through intimate relationships. For 3 decades, Johnny Carson welcomed America into his late-night program, sharing humor and interviews with the biggest names in entertainment. Yet once the cameras shut off and the studio audience departed, Carson frequently extended those discussions in his private office, microphones silenced, guards down, and unfiltered truths emerging. In these candid moments, the most polished Hollywood facades crumbled. Stars who projected wholesome on-screen images often disclosed startling secrets about the industry's hidden underbelly. No subject prompted more frank admissions than the transactional encounters that shaped, and sometimes shattered, careers during Hollywood's studio era. Johnny knew everybody's secrets, stated a former NBC executive who collaborated closely with Carson throughout his late-night dominance. Celebrities confided things to him they would never say on record, especially after drinks at his renowned post-show gatherings. What they shared about how Hollywood truly operated would have stunned mainstream America. Carson earned a reputation as the entertainment world's most reliable listener, offering a secure environment where legendary figures could admit the uncomfortable realities behind their polished public stories. When discussions shifted to how careers were actually built in the studio system, the accounts exposed a world where talent was frequently secondary to personal favors. Carson grasped the divide between Hollywood's glossy facade and its private truths better than anyone, noted a former Tonight Show producer. He knew which stars rose through pure ability and which ones advanced through bedroom arrangements. While he remained discreet on air, in private he was uncompromising about the casting couch culture that dominated the studio era. Tonight, we uncover the startling private conversations Johnny Carson held about 8 Golden Age stars whose routes to stardom involved far more than acting skill alone. These are not mere gossip or guesses, but revelations from the man who became Hollywood's ultimate listener and keeper of secrets. The truth about who truly advanced through intimate favors and the heavy cost they paid for fame. Before she became Marilyn Monroe, she was a struggling young actress unable to land auditions. What she did to change that astonished even Johnny Carson, who later shared that every major role she earned required an off-camera performance. Number 1. Marilyn Monroe. The icon forged through strategic relationships. When Marilyn Monroe appeared on The Tonight Show couch in the early 1960s, viewers saw the ultimate blonde bombshell. Glamorous, playful, and seemingly destined for greatness. But Carson, with his keen insight into crafted personas, saw a far more complex reality behind her ascent. In confidential talks with trusted colleagues, Carson reportedly disclosed what industry veterans had long known but publicly rejected: Monroe's rapid climb from unknown model to worldwide superstar was propelled by calculated relationships with influential men who could open doors. She shone on stage, but she was drained off it, Carson allegedly told a producer after one of Monroe's visits. Every key opportunity in her career came from a man expecting something in return. First photographers, then agents, then studio heads. That's Hollywood's ugly truth. Talent gets you noticed, but for many women back then, something more was needed to break through. From those close to Carson's private views, he learned through his vast network about Monroe's alleged affairs with high-ranking executives at various studios, including the notoriously aggressive Darryl F. Zanuck at 20th Century Fox. These were not casual romances, but deliberate moves towards stardom. Carson wasn't condemning her, clarified a former Tonight Show staffer who overheard several post-show discussions about Monroe. He viewed her as someone who recognized a flawed system and navigated it skillfully. He actually admired her sharp intelligence. The public saw the breathless sex symbol, but Johnny saw the shrewd strategist underneath. What intrigued Carson most about Monroe was how she turned initial exploitation into empowerment. Early on, she may have faced pressure into relationships that controlled her future, but she later used her allure as leverage in an industry that restricted women's options. Johnny believed Marilyn eventually reversed the dynamic, explained a 1970s colleague. She began as a victim of the system but ended up mastering it. The tragedy, in Johnny's eyes, was how this approach eroded her capacity for real emotional bonds. By the time she held true influence, the boundary between performance and genuine self had vanished. Carson's knowledge of Monroe's calculated relationships came from direct talks with directors, producers, and actors who saw the studio system's operations firsthand. The casting couch was not rare. It was routine, deciding which hopeful actresses advanced and which faded into obscurity. What struck Carson about Monroe wasn't simply her participation in this system, noted a former NBC executive, but how it both built and ultimately broke her. He saw her as the clearest example of Hollywood's corrosive power, someone who gained everything she sought but lost her true self along the way. Joan Crawford didn't merely use relationships to rise, she mastered them. Carson disclosed how the actress tracked her influential partners, flipping Hollywood's exploitative structure to her own benefit. Number 2. Joan Crawford. From factory floor to boardroom dominance. Few Hollywood journeys amazed Johnny Carson more than Joan Crawford's rise from poverty-stricken laborer to Oscar winner and Pepsi-Cola board member. Privately, Carson shared details showing how she deliberately leveraged relationships with men and women to conquer the industry's ruthless ladder. She didn't climb the ladder, she controlled it, Carson reportedly joked to his close circle after one of Crawford's appearances. This was not just praise for her achievements, but recognition of her expert handling of a system built to exploit women. From those aware of Carson's off-air talks, he learned through veteran sources about Crawford's early Hollywood days, when she allegedly formed calculated ties with key directors, producers, and executives who could boost her career. Unlike many who fell victim to the casting couch, Crawford approached such encounters with sharp realism. Johnny thought Crawford played chess while others played checkers, said a former Tonight Show producer. From stories shared by old-timers, she mentally cataloged which connections helped and which didn't. She wasn't just involved with powerful men, she built a web of influence that eventually made her stronger than many who started with advantage over her. Especially interesting to Carson were reports of Crawford's strategic bonds with influential women, too. In a time when homosexuality was deeply hidden, she reportedly cultivated ties with women who held sway over directors or elite circles. These were not always romantic, but showed her grasp that power wasn't solely male. Carson once said what set Crawford apart was her refusal to remain a victim, recalled a 1970s staff writer. She realized early that sex was currency in the studio era. Rather than resist, she excelled at it, viewing relationships as alliances instead of mere romance. This mindset continued beyond her climb to fame. Per Carson's private views, she sustained influence long after most actresses were sidelined by nurturing ties with columnists, critics, and later corporate leaders. Her marriage to Pepsi CEO Alfred Steele capped this strategy, granting business power as her screen career waned. Johnny viewed Crawford as the ultimate survivor, stated the former NBC executive. He told colleagues she grasped the game from the start and refused to let it destroy her. While others crumbled under Hollywood's transactional demands, Crawford stayed detached enough to turn them to her gain. Carson's insights into Crawford highlighted his understanding of the studio system. Talent was required, but not enough. Strategic personal ties often decided who succeeded and who vanished. America's ultimate masculine icon concealed Hollywood's greatest secret. Carson knew the reality behind Rock Hudson's studio-orchestrated facade and the influential men he accommodated to safeguard his career and privacy. Number 3. Rock Hudson, the manufactured heterosexual star. Few Hollywood deceptions captivated Johnny Carson more than the elaborate illusion built around Rock Hudson's image. As a top box office draw in the 1950s and 60s, Hudson embodied rugged straight masculinity on screen while concealing his homosexuality. Privately, Carson gathered details about the difficult and often disturbing trade-offs Hudson made to sustain this pretense. Rock wasn't straight, but his drive was, Carson reportedly said to a producer in the 1970s. This summed up Hudson's dilemma, a gay man whose success hinged on persuading America he was the ideal straight heartthrob. From those familiar with Carson's off-camera talks, he learned through connections about the extreme steps to hide Hudson's truth, arranged dates, a fake marriage to his agent's secretary, and studio-planted tales of romances with female co-stars. This was a coordinated effort led by agent Henry Wilson and executives protecting their investment. Johnny was fascinated by the massive scale of fabricating Rock's persona, explained a former staff writer. It wasn't just concealing sexuality, it was inventing a full heterosexual backstory with staged photos and paid companions. Most disturbing to Carson were accounts of Hudson's early days and his tie to Wilson, who reportedly demanded favors from young male clients for representation. Carson believed Hudson made a devil's deal early on, said the former NBC executive. From various sources, Johnny understood Hudson's entry into Hollywood likely involved intimate arrangements with Wilson and possibly others in power. This reflected the trap for gay actors then: hide completely and possibly thrive, or live openly and almost certainly fail. Hudson chose stardom, accepting constant deception with publicists, agents, and studios sustaining the lie. Johnny saw Hudson's story as one of Hollywood's saddest, noted a close colleague. He gained professional triumph but sacrificed real personal bonds. Even at his peak, he lived in terror of exposure, destroying everything. Carson's focus on Hudson reflected his interest in the chasm between public myths and private truths. Hudson's case was extreme, a star whose entire on-screen identity was engineered for profit and societal norms. What struck Carson most wasn't just Hudson's deception, explained the staff writer, but the widespread complicity. Executives, co-stars, journalists, all knew yet upheld the facade for financial reasons, revealing the publicity machine's deep corruption. Her 7 marriages grabbed headlines, but Carson knew Lana Turner's true romantic strategy was far more deliberate. Every contract had hidden clauses, he confided. Those clauses made her one of Hollywood's strongest women. Number 4. Lana Turner, the Sweater Girls' calculated alliances. When Lana Turner guested on The Tonight Show in the 1960s and 70s, audiences saw a glamorous figure whose chaotic love life, including 7 husbands and her daughter's fatal stabbing of mobster Johnny Stompanato, often eclipsed her films. But Carson, via his deep connections, saw a sharper truth about her rise. She had 7 husbands. Hollywood was the 8th, Carson reportedly quipped after one visit. This captured how Turner's relationships shaped her path from mythic discovery at a soda fountain to MGM's top female draw. From those aware of Carson's private views, he learned through veterans about Turner's early calculated ties, connections with men who could improve her MGM status and secure prime roles. Johnny thought Turner was far more deliberate than her impulsive image implied, said a former producer. Many early romances had clear career benefits. This was survival for ambitious women then, but she excelled at it. What set Turner apart, per Carson, was turning exploitation into influence. Initially facing typical pressures, she soon chose partners offering specific advantages. Carson viewed Turner as a master of Hollywood's hidden rules, noted the former executive. She treated romances as business deals, embracing the system's reality. This extended to directors and co-stars. Sources told Carson she formed ties that delivered better projects. Johnny respected her clarity, recalled a 1970s writer. She never mixed love with strategy, understanding decisions involved more than talent alone. Turner's method reflected women's limited power in the studio era. Romantic leverage was one rare tool for control. Carson saw it contextually, resistance within constraints. What intrigued Carson was her active role in her destiny, explained the producer. In a system treating actresses as interchangeable, she asserted agency. Methods controversial today, but defiant then. Studio boss Harry Cohn dominated every part of Rita Hayworth's life, who she dated, her appearance, even private entertainment demands. Carson called it Hollywood's most troubling known secret. Number 5. Rita Hayworth, dancing to Colombia's controlling rhythm. Few transformations rivaled Margarita Cancino becoming Rita Hayworth, the 1940s love goddess. Behind it was a grim tale of domination and exploitation that Carson learned from first-hand witnesses. She danced for the world, but one man chose the song, Carson reportedly said of Hayworth. That man was Harry Cohn, Columbia Pictures' tyrannical chief, whose holdover her exemplified studio abuse of female stars. From those close to Carson's talks, he heard alarming details of Cohn's total oversight, painful electrolysis for her hairline, dye to become redhead, name change to hide heritage, and control over dates, events, and behavior. Johnny was troubled by Cohn's treatment, said a former producer. Veterans described Cohn seeing Hayworth as property, dictating personal life alongside career. Worst were reports of Cohn bugging her home to monitor talks and block unapproved ties. Carson viewed her studio tie as sinister beyond normal contracts, stated the executive. Sources indicated her success required availability to Cohn and men he wanted impressed. This showed studio heads immense power. Defiance meant suspension, bad roles, or ruin via leaks. Johnny saw Hayworth as tragically trapped, noted a colleague. She traded autonomy for fame, paying far more than expected. By the time she could resist, exploitation was ingrained. Carson's interest reflected his view of stardom's toll. Hayworth's case was extreme, adored on screen, owned off it. Most revealing, per the staff writer, was widespread silence. Many saw Cohn's actions but stayed quiet to protect themselves, exposing systemic rot. Tyrone Power's matinee idol charm masked Hollywood's riskiest secret. Carson disclosed how the star balanced a hidden double life, accommodating producers of both genders while preserving the image that sold tickets. Number 6. Tyrone Power, the matinee idol's hidden compromises. With dashing looks and charisma, Tyrone Power defined the classic leading man in 1930s, 40s adventures and romances, becoming a top heartthrob. But Carson, via veterans who knew the real story, understood the intricate reality behind Power's managed image. The studio's golden boy in every sense, Carson allegedly quipped. This alluded to Power's discreet ties with influential figures at 20th Century Fox and elsewhere spanning genders for career gain. From those aware of Carson's views, he heard from insiders about Power's pragmatic alliances with power brokers able to shape his path. Johnny thought Power grasped Hollywood's rules exceptionally, said a former producer. He used his appeal strategically with both men and women early on. Unlike full concealment cases like Hudson, Power reportedly had tacit studio acceptance. Executives knew but protected his straight image for profit. Carson saw Power as negotiating a tough deal, noted the executive. He upheld the required heterosexual idol role while allowed private discretion if utterly secret. This included rumored private auditions beyond discussion. Johnny respected Power's navigation, recalled a 1970s writer. He handled demands without the crushing weight that broke others living total lies, a practical balance in a restrictive time. Power's path showed limited choices for non-conforming actors. Exposure meant ruin. Discretion was survival. What intrigued Carson was the system's hypocrisy, explained the producer. Studios enforced morality clauses publicly while tolerating contradictions privately. For profit. As long as I can't act, I can still please men. Carson shared what Ava Gardner told him privately after filming, and why that blunt admission made her Hollywood's most fearlessly truthful star. Number 7. Ava Gardner. Unfiltered truth in a world of illusion. Few guests impressed Carson with honesty like Ava Gardner, whose beauty and stormy romances with Sinatra, Hughes, and others rivaled her screen work. She openly recognized Hollywood's realities, defying industry myths. Per those near Carson, Gardner's Tonight Show chats often continued privately, where she offered raw insights into the studio system. In one such talk, she reportedly confessed, "I was a lousy actress, but fantastic in bed." Johnny believed her, said a former producer who saw their off-camera exchanges. Not that she lacked talent, Carson thought she had real ability, but that early breaks stemmed more from beauty and willingness than skill alone. Her frankness when others insisted on meritocracy amazed him. Gardner's realism came from her accidental discovery via a photo in a shop window. Less idealized entry gave clearer perspective. Carson called her Hollywood's sharpest observer, noted the executive. She knew success involved talent, looks, sexuality, and ties. While others claimed pure skill, she admitted complexities privately. This applied to her famous romances, often power plays reflecting industry dynamics. Marriages to Rooney Shaw Sinatra linked her to key figures. Johnny admired her calculation beneath the wild image, recalled a 1970s writer. Her connections weren't chance, they showed savvy about influence. What set Gardner apart was rejecting the meritocracy myth. Others rewrote histories. She stayed honest, threatening the publicity machine built on illusion. Carson thought her truthfulness risky, explained the producer. Studios controlled narratives. Her admissions undermined the talent alone story. This extended to self-assessment. She knew her strengths without delusion, impressing Carson amid ego-driven stars. Johnny found her unpretentiousness refreshing, noted the colleague. In a business of facades, she refused self-deception, lending her roles raw authenticity. Before becoming the king, Clark Gable was Hollywood's most unwilling companion. Carson exposed the startling deal that sparked Gable's rise and why MGM called it their smartest investment. Number 8. Clark Gable. The King's hidden early bargains. Few ascents matched Clark Gable's shift from struggling theater actor to king of Hollywood, MGM's top male star for decades thanks to female appeal. Behind it was a story of pragmatic deals that Carson learned from early career witnesses. He earned every role twice. On set and privately, Carson reportedly said. This referred to Gable's alleged early ties with influential figures. Notably older female producer Mina Wallace, whose personal interest fast-tracked opportunities. From those familiar with Carson's talks, he heard veterans describe Gable's initial breaks via relationships with attracted power players willing to help the attractive newcomer. Johnny thought Gable later erased these from his story, said a former producer. Once stardom hit via audience love in films like It Happened One Night and Gone with the Wind, he distanced from early facilitators, building a self-made myth suiting his rugged image. Carson viewed Gable as reconciling past without being trapped by it, noted the executive. He compartmentalized early experiences, privately acknowledging them while embracing the preferred narrative. This evolved into assertiveness. Early accommodation became command once value proven. Johnny respected Gable's resilience, recalled a 1970s writer. He used the system without corruption, making entry compromises but retaining integrity to deserve later success. Not all managed that shift. Gable's path showed gatekeeper control in talent-rich Hollywood. Relationships often the only door opener. What fascinated Carson was Gable's growth from leveraging ties to earning status through skill and charisma, explained the producer. Unlike some who stalled, Gable developed his craft, becoming indispensable. MGM's past deals irrelevant to his earned power.